Trust me, nothing could go wrong.
Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars. Give me the Star Wars,
Bienvenidos, worldwide fans of our planet's hottest entertainment with an edge from a galaxy far, far away. Jaime En Fuego here, welcoming you once again to my namesake program, Enfuegotainment. That's right, just call me Fuego for short, and it is rad status that you are here checking out this video. Supremely appreciated the ongoing coverage here, nearing the end of our first season of The Mandalorian, or Mando for short, even though that doesn't quite make sense. But yes, the 7th episode here, and it's a doozy. My God. Honestly, in contention as the best episode of the season, and ironically enough, both of the best episodes of this show in Season 1, both directed by the same lady, Deborah Chow, who is also doing the Obi-Wan series, so you can understand just how I'm just brimming with anticipation for that now, because her 2 episodes were just leaps and bounds, man. I mean, we are talking just head and shoulders above everything else. There are good episodes of this show, and then there's also a couple that are a little bit more forgetful and throwaway, like where they're, doing Seven Samurai protecting, the town and all that different stuff. And I know a lot of people really enjoyed our previous episode, which was the, breakout episode, and had Bill Burr in it for whatever reason, who I don't know, he was good, but he just didn't stand out to me like he did for so many other people. In fact, he took me out of it, as I mentioned in the review of the previous episode. And so, yeah, after our little couple side missions that we've had, that really just felt like, okay, this is just a little diversion, let's get back to the main story that encompassed, the first and the third episode, really, and not much else beyond that. And so, yes, here in our 7th episode, boy, do we ever get back in, just the wake of that little destruction of, we got some rebels at the end of the last episode, at least, which was cool, going and destroying that guy's, port, whatever, after, they tried to double-cross Mando, and Mando went into super badass mode, and he turned the tables on the rest of that ragtag team that he had that did not trust him, including an ex-girlfriend, and so on and so forth. I don't know, I was not as high on that episode as a lot of people, but here, for 7, we get back to the main story, and boy, do we ever. These are non-spoilery, just rapid thoughts after watching it. I watched Rise of Skywalker last night. That's a whole other can of worms, everybody. If you want to see my review for that, you can definitely jump over. But because of the release of Rise of Skywalker this weekend, they pushed the Mandalorian release from Friday to Wednesday. I was a little out of the loop about that, and when I saw that it was already up when I was going to work on Thursday, I was just like, oh, okay. And so, yes, you're getting this on the usual Friday. Sorry, guys, if you were hoping for it a little bit earlier, but this episode is badass. It's basically what we were hoping for this entire series, I guess, especially with a lot of the marketing that they showed. We have our badass drop trooper, Gina Carano, coming back. We have Nick Nolte's his name's eluding me even though I just watched it, but we actually get a name and a distinction for him. Nick Nolte was the cool creature rider guy that helped out Mando in those first 2 episodes, and so he comes back. We find out that the IG-11 has been reprogrammed, and so he's going to be back around, and yeah, Mando is basically, without giving too much plot, Carl Weathers reaches back out to him and says, yeah, that guy who hired you for this job, for that job to steal little baby Yoda and everything, yeah, well, he's basically taken over my city, and I need your help. Can you please come back with the child? We'll use the child as bait, and we'll get, Werner Herzog, his former Imperial warlord guy, out of power and take that mofo down. And I will basically, wipe the slate clean, and you and I can be cool, man. So it's a win-win situation, obviously, for both Mando and for Weathers' character. And there was no way that, this is a deal you can't refuse, that's exactly what this was. And it's like, oh, it's the excuse to get all of those characters we wanted to see more of that were introduced in individual episodes back, and yet it also gets us back to our, crazy bounty hunter city and its nasty griminess and stuff, and Yeah, I mean, and also it's returning to a set that they obviously, constructed specifically for this show, so it saves on budgetary, bits and stuff like that. Although we do see more of the planet, which is cool, including its lava fields and, some of its wildlife without spoiling stuff, which is actually one of the dopest scenes in this. And we also learn more about just the extent of our Baby Yoda's powers, and there's a scene on the ship that transpires when there's an arm wrestling contest going down, and little Baby Yoda gets confused, and you find out the extent of his power is maybe even a little bit darker, I guess, or at least just there's more fierceness there, and we know just the capacity of what he can do since episode 2, but this refines it even more. And then there's another scene later in the episode involving some wildlife that I can't specify without spoiling things, but you realize like the scope may be even crazier than any of us imagined, which is really rad status. This episode has terrific drama. We get that Imperial presence returning because, without spoiling stuff, if they're going back to that planet, and we saw a few stormtroopers and stuff, they gotta double down, right? Or maybe then some. Yeah, and there's also a face that everybody has been waiting this entire time to see. He's shown in the promotional photos, so I don't watch Breaking Bad, but finally shows up. I mean, it's in the thumbnails for all of the different reviews of this episode, and I think it was even in the synopsis that character that he's playing finally shows up, and you get to see what side he's on and what his agenda is and stuff. So that's cool. I know a lot of people are going to be very excited to see his face pop up in this, but yeah, performances across the board are great from everybody. The action, just like Chow did a terrific job with in episode 3, she knocks it out of the park in this episode. This is the epitome of what I've wanted the show to be. The side missions, I mean, Tatooine, I guess, was probably my favorite of those couple of side missions that we got, but nonetheless, they just felt like almost the equivalent of like those DBZ episodes where, the fight would last forever, or it was like a weird little side quest of like an eating contest or whatever. I mean, that's what some of those Mandalorian episodes felt like to me. And so for that reason, while I still found them enjoyable, I don't think there's been a bad episode of this show, but there have been less enjoyable episodes, and this is just getting back to the gritty, just action aspect that I wish we got in every episode. But beggars can't be choosers, and I'm just happy that we have this show, that we have a second season coming. I'm sad that there's only one episode left, but this has been the best Star Wars thing that I've seen this year. Yeah, sorry, Rise of Skywalker, but thanks to The Mandalorian, and despite the sagas being over, I think Star Wars is in pretty good hands. So yeah, give me more Mandalorian. So I've been Jaime En Fuego. Y'all can find me on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, here on YouTube, obviously. Yes, as I said earlier in the video, my initial thoughts, a rapid reaction to Rise of Skywalker after I walked out of the IMAX theater last night. Those are up on the channel, but I'm going to be doing a larger spoiler discussion entailing the bueno, the malo, and the feo, the good, the bad, and the ugly, which has some amusing resonance mentioning that here on The Mandalorian. But yes, myself, Cecil Laird, and maybe a couple other guests are very excited to just do a deep dive into the spoilery aspects of that film, which I plan to watch again this weekend I can't quite grade it just yet. I have to give it some more perspective, but there's no contemplation necessary to articulate my adoration for what Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have done with this show. And I've been rewatching The Clone Wars, actually. I never finished the series, so I'm actually planning a review of that full series ahead of this 7th season that we are getting next year on Disney+. But as far as more Star Wars coverage goes, just this past year I re-reviewed the prequels. I'm putting up reviews of the original trilogy this weekend, but I also did, Master and Apprentice, which is a great Claudia Gray pre-Episode 1 novel about Qui-Gon and, excuse me, Obi-Wan. I also did Dooku Jedi Lost, which is another great read, and yeah, I mean, lots of cool Star Wars coverage. If that's not always your thing and you want some more variety, I did reviews this past year since relaunching Enfuegotainment of all of the Marvel movies that came out this past year, even comedies like Good Boys, which is one of my favorite flicks this year, some great dramas and dramedies, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Knives Out both come to mind. So those are all here on the channel, and I implore you with great thanks if you give them a quick little look-ski. But if you're down with the spectacular stuff, which is probably why you're here, you probably know me from The Hoarder Show, where we have like 30 times the amount of subscribers that I have here. But yeah, nonetheless, it is supremely appreciated over there as well. YouTube.com/The Horror Show channel, where we discuss on the daily, sometimes twice a day, but there's always a new bit of the scarific, whether a film review, whether a trailer reaction, whether a unboxing, a let's play, all kinds of cool stuff there. Vlogs, convention coverage, you name it. There is all kinds of sweet stuff there every single day, sometimes twice a day in certain circumstances where there's something pertinent that needs to be covered. And then lastly, on the Will Escridia YouTube channel, every single Monday evening, myself, showrunner over there, CP, shout out to that guy, and obviously the third in our trio, Lindsay Mimze, that's right, from My 2 Cents of Nonsense. We participate in a program called Show Business, and Show Business is basically a program that we break down weekend box office numbers, we look ahead and make some predictions to the upcoming weekend, and then lastly have some palaver, as I all too often say, about some of the biggest entertainment stories of the past week. So every Monday evening, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, live, so please tune in and check that out. That is also a big grande gracias if you give it a peek ski, and yeah, I guess that's going to be at least all for now until next week and our final episode of Mando arrives. So until the reel of Ka comes around once more, I say hasta luego, cinemigos, but I'm hopeful that we get to share more of this palaver sooner rather than later, and until then, remember, may the Force be with you, but definitely carry a blaster in this case.